Now here is something nobody likes to admit. Out of every 10 people who buy a motorcycle, get the license, and ride off into the sunset full of excitement, a huge number of them will quietly sell that bike within a year or two. Gone. Done. The dream folded up and parked under a dusty cover in the garage. And here is the strange part. It is almost never the riders you would expect. It has nothing to do with who is the bravest, who bought the fastest bike, or who has the most natural talent. The riders who are still out there at 70, grinning under a helmet on a Sunday morning, are separated from the ones who quit by a handful of habits that barely touch raw skill at all. In the last two videos, we covered what the old school riders got right and the myths they got wrong. This one ties it all together. And the number one thing on this list, the single biggest difference between a rider who lasts a lifetime and one who quits in a year, is probably not what you would guess. It is not a skill at all. These are 10 things that separate lifelong riders from the ones who quit. Now let's be clear about what this is not. This is not a list of fancy techniques or secret racetrack tricks. The riders who stick with this for decades are not all heroes or daredevils. A lot of them are pretty ordinary people on pretty ordinary bikes, commuters pulling into the driveway after work, perfectly content. What sets them apart is quieter than that. It is a set of habits and attitudes that keep riding fun, safe, and sustainable long after the first-year excitement wears off. The ones who quit almost always quit for the same handful of reasons. And every reason on this list is avoidable if you can see it coming. So we are counting down from 10, building to that number 1 that genuinely surprises people. And if you have ever wondered whether you will still be riding in 20 years, this is the list that decides it. Number 10, they bought the right motorcycle for themselves, not for the image. A massive number of people quit riding because they bought the wrong bike for who they actually are. They picked the machine that looked coolest in the showroom, or the one their buddy had, or the one that got the most attention in the parking lot. And then reality set in. The bike was too tall, so every stop was stressful and tippy-toed, or too heavy, so it was a workout just to back it out of the garage, or too aggressive, so an hour in the saddle left their wrists and lower back screaming. The thing that was supposed to be freedom turned into a chore, and chores get sold. The lifelong riders did something less glamorous. They matched the bike to their real life, to their height, their strength, the kind of riding they actually do, and the roads they actually ride. A comfortable, confidence-inspiring bike gets ridden constantly. An intimidating, ill-fitting one becomes expensive garage art under a cover. And the veterans will happily tell a newer rider to size down, sit on a dozen different bikes, and ignore the badge on the tank entirely. Comfort and fit beat horsepower and looks every single time once the novelty wears off. A smart move the lasting riders swear by is to rent or demo a bike before they ever buy, and to spend real time sitting on different machines with both feet flat on the ground in the showroom. 5 honest minutes in a parking lot tells you more about a bike than 5 hours of reading reviews online. There is no trophy for riding a bike that makes you miserable. But picking the right machine is only step 1. Number 9 is about taking care of the most important part of the whole setup. Number 9, they look after the rider, not just the motorcycle. Everybody obsesses over the bike, the maintenance, the upgrades, the shiny accessories. But the riders who quit often quit because riding became uncomfortable, tiring, or even painful. And nobody ever told them that was a fixable problem. Think about it. A tired rider makes bad decisions. A dehydrated rider loses focus halfway through the day. A rider squinting into the glare misses hazards. A rider whose gear does not fit is distracted by every single mile. So the body and the mind are riding equipment too, and the lifers treat them that way. The riders who last take this seriously do it without making a big deal of it. They wear earplugs so wind noise does not fry their nerves on a long day. They stop and rest before fatigue turns into a mistake. They keep their eyes healthy and their visor clean. They dress for comfort across the whole ride, not just the first 10 minutes in the driveway. And none of this is about being soft. The toughest old riders you will ever meet are religious about earplugs, hydration, and a proper break, because they learned that a worn-out rider is a dangerous rider, no matter how many miles are under their belt. Take care of the engine, sure, but take care of the human bolted to the seat first. And the riders who feel good on the bike do the one thing that keeps every skill sharp, which is number 8. Number 8, they ride regularly even when it is just a short loop. Riding is a perishable skill. Your balance, your throttle control, your hazard awareness, all of it gets a little rusty when the bike sits for weeks at a time. And here is the trap a lot of quitters fall into. They ride hard for a month, then life gets busy, the bike sits, and the next time they throw a leg over it, everything feels foreign and a little scary. That rusty feeling is uncomfortable, so they ride even less. So a slow drift sets in. Less riding leads to less confidence, which leads to even less riding, until one day the motorcycle is just a thing taking up space in the garage that they feel guilty about. The lifelong riders break that cycle by keeping the rhythm going. Not epic adventures every time, just a short ride to keep the muscle memory alive. A loop to the coffee shop, a quick blast down a favorite back road. They know that consistency beats intensity, and that a rider who rides a little every week stays sharp, confident, and hungry for more. It also keeps the bike itself healthy, because machines that sit develop their own problems, from flat-spotted tires to dead batteries to gummed-up fuel. A bike that gets ridden is a bike that stays ready, and a rider who keeps riding stays ready too. And the bar for this is genuinely low. Even 15 minutes around the block on a Tuesday evening is enough to keep your reflexes warm and your head in the game. It is not about the distance. It is about never letting the gap get long enough for the fear to quietly creep back in. Keep the bike moving and you keep yourself riding. But part of riding for life is also knowing when to leave the bike in the garage, which is number 7. Number 7, they know when not to ride. This one sounds backwards on a list about riding for life, but it is one of the biggest. The riders who quit often quit because of one bad scare, and a shocking number of those scares happen on days they probably should not have been riding at all. Riding angry, riding exhausted, riding in conditions way past their skill level just because they had already planned to go. Riding when every instinct was quietly screaming, "Not today." So they put themselves into a situation that overwhelmed them, had a terrifying near miss, and never quite trusted themselves on the bike again. The lifelong riders developed something that looks a lot like wisdom. They learned to read the day. Bad weather they have not trained for, a head full of stress, a body that is wiped out, a couple of drinks, any of those, and the bike stays home. And the road is still there tomorrow. And it is not just the dramatic stuff like storms and ice. Sometimes it is as simple as being too angry, too distracted by a rough day, or too rushed to ride with a clear head. The lifers learn to notice that feeling and respect it, because the road does not care why your focus is gone. Knowing when not to ride is not weakness. It is exactly how you earn all those years of riding. Most riders think the goal is more skill. The lifers know judgment matters even more, which leads straight into number 6. Number 6, they never decide they have learned it all. Here is a quiet truth. A lot of riders quit not because they lacked skill, but because their skill stopped growing the day they passed their test. And a stagnant rider is a nervous rider. They never got better, so the road never got any less scary. The riders who quit often treat that first license like graduation. Done learning, time to just ride. But riding is a skill with no ceiling. There is always more control to find, more smoothness, more awareness of what is happening around you. So the rider who stops learning slowly falls behind the demands of the road, and that gap shows up as fear. The lifelong riders stay students forever. They take advanced courses years into riding. They practice braking and slow speed control in empty parking lots on quiet mornings. They watch how better riders handle a tricky corner and quietly steal what works. And the payoff is huge, because every bit of new skill makes the bike feel easier, which makes riding more fun, which keeps them coming back for more. And here is something telling. Walk into any advanced riding course and you will find gray-haired riders with decades of experience taking notes right next to the nervous beginners. The ones who think they are above more training are almost always the ones who needed it the most. Growth is what keeps the spark alive. The day you think you know it all is the day the fun starts to die. Quick pause. If you want to be one of the riders still out there in 30 years, hit subscribe, because keeping you riding for life is the whole point of this channel. Now the back half of this list is where it gets less about technique and more about the stuff that actually keeps people in the saddle. Number 5, they ride their own ride. Peer pressure has ended more riding careers than almost anything else. A newer rider joins a faster group, feels embarrassed about holding everyone up, and pushes way past their comfort zone to keep pace. And on a motorcycle, riding past your comfort zone is exactly where the bad things happen. The rider gets in over their head, has a moment that scares the life out of them, and decides the whole thing is just too dangerous. So a hobby they could have loved for 40 years ends because of one ride where they let someone else set the speed. The lifelong riders are immune to this, and it is not because they are slow, it is because they have nothing left to prove. They ride at the pace that keeps them sharp and happy, they let the fast guys disappear up the road, and they meet up at the next stop with a smile. And the funny thing is, the riders worth looking up to never judge a slower rider for going their own pace. The ones pressuring you to keep up are usually the least experienced in the group. The truly skilled riders are the calmest, and they will happily wait at the next gas station. They understand that the only ride that matters is the one inside their own helmet. And the riders who master that calm tend to have the healthiest relationship with the one emotion that controls everything on a bike, which is number 4. Number 4, they have a healthy relationship with fear. Fear is the quiet thing behind almost every rider who quits, but it works in 2 opposite ways. Some riders ignore their fear completely, ride like they are invincible, and crash. Others are so ruled by fear that every ride is pure white-knuckle anxiety, no joy at all, until they finally give it up just to feel calm again. Neither one lasts. The reckless rider eventually runs out of luck. The terrified rider runs out of patience. So the trick the lifers figured out is to land right in the middle. The riders who last treat fear as useful information, not a command. A little fear keeps them sharp, humble, and respectful of the machine. But they do not let it freeze them because they have built enough real skill that their confidence is earned, not faked. They feel the fear, they respect it, and then they ride through it with a clear head. And it is worth saying that this balance is not a personality you are born with. It is built. Every course you take, every hour of seat time, every honest look at what you can and cannot do yet, all of it slowly turns blind fear into calm respect. Get it right, and riding stays thrilling without ever becoming terrifying. And the thing that helps riders find that balance more than anything is number 3. Number 3, they found their people. Riding alone forever is hard to sustain. A lot of riders quit simply because the hobby got lonely, or because they had no one to share it with, no one to learn from, and no one to call when the bike would not start in the driveway. The excitement faded with nothing to keep it warm. We talked about the brotherhood in the first video, but here is the practical side of it. Community is not just a nice feeling. It is the thing that actually keeps people in the saddle for decades. So the riders who connect with others ride more, learn faster, and quit far less often than the ones going it alone. The lifelong riders found a crew, a club, an online forum, a regular coffee meetup, anything that gave riding a social heartbeat. People who celebrate a new bike with them. People who teach them a better line through a corner. People who show up with a trailer when their bike breaks down 200 miles from home. And it does not have to be a giant club or a loud scene if that is not your thing. Even 1 or 2 riding buddies or a single regular coffee meetup is enough to give riding a heartbeat and a reason to keep showing up. That connection turns a solo hobby into a part of your life you would never give up. Find your people, and you will never run out of reasons to ride. But underneath all of it, the riders who last share one deeper thing, which is number 2. Number 2, they ride for something deeper than the rush. Adrenaline is a great reason to start riding. It is a terrible reason to keep riding. The riders who chase only the thrill tend to burn out. Either the rush fades and they get bored, or they keep pushing for a bigger and bigger high until they get a scare that ends it. Thrill alone has a short shelf life. The riders who last have a why that runs deeper. So when the novelty wears off, as it always does, they still have a reason to throw a leg over the bike. For some, it is the meditative calm of an empty road early in the morning, the closest thing to peace they get all week. For some, it is the freedom, that feeling of being completely present and alive. For some, it is the practical joy of the commute, turning dead time into the best part of the day. For some, it is the places a motorcycle takes them and the things they would never have seen from inside a car. The reason itself does not matter. What matters is that they have one. And your why is allowed to change over the years. Maybe it starts out as pure excitement, then becomes the daily commute, then turns into long weekend trips with friends once the kids have moved out. The riders who last simply keep finding a fresh reason whenever the old one starts to fade. Find your deeper why, and riding stops being a phase and becomes part of who you are. But the single most important thing of all, the number one trait that separates the riders who last from the ones who quit, is not a skill, not a bike, and not even a feeling. It is something much simpler, and a lot of people get it completely wrong. Number 1, they left their ego in the garage. You probably expected the number one thing to be some advanced skill, nerves of steel, or natural talent. It is none of those. The single biggest thing that separates a rider who lasts a lifetime from one who quits in a year is humility. Plain humility. Think about how ego shows up everywhere on this list. Ego buys the wrong bike to impress people. Ego skips the gear because it looks tough. Ego refuses to take another course because it thinks it already knows everything. Ego rides above its pace to keep up with the group. Ego ignores fear and ignores the weather. So almost every reason a rider crashes out or quits traces right back to a refusal to stay humble. The lifelong riders are the most humble people in the parking lot. They will tell you they are still learning after 40 years in the saddle. They respect the machine, they respect the road, and they respect every other rider, beginner or expert. They are not afraid to look like a student because they know that the moment you think you have mastered a motorcycle is the moment it teaches you a brutal lesson. That humility is exactly what kept the old school riders alive long enough to become old school riders in the first place. Skill fades. Bravado gets you hurt. But humility, the quiet willingness to keep learning and keep respecting the ride, that is what keeps you in the saddle for life. So there it is, the right bike, taking care of yourself, riding consistently, knowing when not to ride. Never stop training. Ride your own ride. Manage your fear. Find your people. Ride for a deeper reason. And above all, check your ego at the kickstand. Notice what almost none of those were. They were not about being the fastest, the bravest, or the most talented. They were about respect, humility, and the kind of quiet wisdom the old school riders had all along, which, when you think about it, is exactly where this whole series started. If you have watched all three of these, you now have the full picture. What the veterans got right, what they got wrong, and what it really takes to still be out there decades from now. So hit subscribe and stick around because that is the whole mission here, keeping you riding, smiling, and coming home safe for as many years as you want. If you missed the start of the series, the first video is on screen now. Ride safe out there. I will see you in the next one.